Welcome back to the United Pubcast. Manchester United 4, Chelsea 1. One goal off of my prediction. I did predict 5-0. Larry thought I was drinking a little bit too much, but I did have a 5-0 prediction. On another day, it should have been. Now, on another day, it could have been 5-all if Chelsea took their chances as well. We'll dissect the performance, but ultimately, Larry, before all the performance, before sort of looking ahead, this player good enough, this player not good enough, at the start of the season, we all sat here and said, regardless of a new manager or whatever, our minimum expectation as Manchester United fans in the modern game, especially for Eric Ten Hag coming in, was top four and a trophy. And really, after the first two games, I thought, oh my God, simply that's not going to happen. But at the start of the season, top four and a trophy, success for Manchester United and Eric Ten Hag, job done.
100%, mate. And that's, at the end of the day, this is what the history books are going to read. We can look at the end of the season. We've got a big FA Cup game coming up, which I'm really looking forward to previewing, I must admit. Fulham almost feels redundant, doesn't it? But look, in the context of this season, you have to be happy with a top four finish. And we've secured a trophy. Let's not forget that. And I think full credit to Eric Ten Hag, because I think it'd be very easy to underestimate the job he's done. I think he's almost made things so good that we almost expect to see a game at Old Trafford and belt the team. And again, that's full credit to the manager, because many managers have come before him and have really struggled to get that sort of structure in place. So credit to the Dutchman. I think obviously the players deserve credit. They're doing the business, but Eric Ten Hag is the one. He's the one that deserves the ultimate recognition here.
Yeah, definitely. When we do season reviews, we'll look at Eric Ten Hag's job on and off the pitch. It's crazy how long this season has been in terms of the challenges he has overcome, in terms of the current situation we do find ourselves in. But what do you think after seeing that performance and my prediction? Now, it wasn't 5-0, it was 4-1, obviously. But in regards to my prediction a couple of days ago, I was confident of smashing Chelsea. Now, yes, on another day, maybe they could have got 1 or 2 goals, but we really should have had another 20 goals if we sort of executed our play in the final third. So with the evidence of how we saw the game go and my prediction pre-match, just what were your thoughts on sort of, was I right to be that confident, or did Chelsea just sort of have a bad day and we had a bit of a good day? Like, just your thoughts on how it did unfold in regards to my confidence before the match, because a lot of people were saying, oh, this is going to be tight, could see a draw sort of happening. I only saw us smashing them.
Chelsea are as frail as a baby fetus. They've got nothing about them, Tom. They're gutless. I got to be honest. Like, I think they had an opportunity to go up. I think Chelsea actually should have been 2-0 up, if I'm being really honest. I thought they had some really good opportunities, particularly in the opening 10 minutes. Gallagher had a really good opportunity, and so did Mudryk. But they didn't take that opportunity.
He's not going to work. He's shocking.
He's not good. He's not good. He's almost... Do you remember Dan James? He's Dan James. It's the same thing. I'd probably even argue Dan James.
I like Dan James.
Well, Dan James doesn't have horrible tattoos, so it makes him more likable. But no, in all seriousness, Chelsea, they're a basket case. And I thought once United scored their first, the body language changed from Chelsea. I thought United were good.
Almost felt like watching United, the dark days when United, where we sort of capitulated at times, and you thought, oh God, this team doesn't care. They're so short on quality, sort of thing. I think that's what Chelsea fans are going through now in regards to got all the names on paper. They've got high wages, high transfer fees. Ultimately, what you're seeing on the pitch doesn't reflect that. And I think Chelsea fans, we went through under the sort of the dark days or any of them, I'd take your pick in regards to when it got bad.
The transfer window where we signed Falcao and Di Maria, and you sign all these big names, but they're just square pegs in round holes. That's what Chelsea are at the moment. Enzo Fernandez, the biggest hype about him was his price tag. He wasn't on the pitch today. I didn't watch him do anything. The most impact he had was his argument with David De Gea. There's nothing there. And again, maybe with a better manager, you get more tune out of some of these players, but they need a massive clear out. Now, obviously, this isn't a Chelsea podcast. Let's focus on United. Job done. Martial, I got to say, I thought better performance. I was really frustrated by him initially, Tom.
I thought he was one of his poorer performances. I thought he was better against Bournemouth.
I thought his overall play was all right. He got a bit sloppy in the second half with some passes, but he should have finished first time. I think who put it across to him? I think it was Antony. Put it across to Martial. He should have hit it first time. He tried to be too tricky with it.
I think there was a few performances, whether Martial falls into this or Bruno falls into this or Rashford, Antony. I think some of the performance, Sancho, I thought some of the performances were good, but ultimately, and probably rightly so in regards to its results-based business, but a lot of our opinions on the performances will be judged on the execution. The execution in the final third, like the final ball or the final shot, was just poor. But
Yes, sir.
ultimately, job done. But say good day to some people in the live chat, which is good to see. There are a few in the chat, so please do leave a like on the video if you are happy with a successful season. That's all we can ask for as Man United fans, to give us what we asked for at the start of the season. They have done that. But Jay, good to see you. Welcome Saturday night games and Wednesday, Thursday. I agree. That is always my first thought. But we are Manchester United. What's going to happen? We're going to be put on Sunday. Simply Manchester United will be the biggest game of the weekend. We will be put on Sundays regardless. But it always does sort of excite the fans in terms of Saturday games. It doesn't happen. But Chris, obviously a lot of people be playing the Champions League song on the way to work this morning. Morning, boys, from Stephen. Good to see you, mate. Agree with it. Chelsea horrible, which we touched on. Emad, good to see you, mate. Hope all is well. Rob as well. Morning, lads. Back where we belong in the Champions League. Not like Newcastle. I saw Newcastle put a tweet out saying they're back where they belong. I don't know the last time Newcastle were in the Champions League. Must have been about 2 decades ago.
I think they misunderstood Champions League for championship. That's where they belong.
Not going to lie, performance didn't impress me today, but job done. Yeah, the performance, I think, it was one of those ones which I've sort of alluded to previously, was so close to so good and also so close to so bad. Like, it was a little bit in between.
I'm going to give the players a bit of a break here. I've got to be honest, Chelsea weren't trying. Like, it's really hard when you know the job is done. Like, a 3-0 up. Well, sorry,
it was almost my thought in regards to sometimes, when you play a lower level team or a lower league team and you sort of drop to their level, I felt it kind of got a little bit too easy for United, and United were on those counterattacks 3 or 4 times. We had counterattacks where we actually had the overload. We had like 4v3. It was kind of each player had like 2 options and think, well, hang on, they're too easy. Which one? That little bit of hesitation sort of crept into the game, and I think that was United need to do better, of course. But it does happen. It just sort of subconsciously in a player's mindset when it does become a bit easy, you don't have that sort of intensity. But Stephen as well, Lampard in charge. Will be very interesting. They will improve under Pochettino, but it will be interesting to see how that
They got to get rid of a lot of players. Like, seriously, half the players on that pitch, not good. That's a bad team.
Emad giving you a morning surprise there, and Jay as well. Sancho better off on the.
Does Emad have? That's what worries me. I don't even know what he's talking about. And if he's talking about what he's insinuating that he's talking about, then you should see a doctor, mate. Because if that thing's square, and you've produced 4 children. I feel sorry for your wife.
We'll clean this up now, but I do enjoy a little bit of that chat, maybe more so on a Saturday night than a Friday morning. But it is Friday morning here in Sydney, 7 o'clock. If you are happy with the commitment from a few Australian Reds, please do leave a like on the video. That'd be very much appreciated. As I said, there'll be a lot of content coming up this week before the big game. Well, there is another game. Obviously, we are playing Fulham, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. But obviously, all the content before the Manchester derby. And team selections
will return to the pub, which is going to be regular since we've received such positive feedback.
Actually, I saw in this, so we're not going to touch on now. This is very interesting. Obviously, not a United topic. Ange Postecoglou to Spurs. I see that happening. He shouldn't take it. He shouldn't, because Spurs is Spurs. He'll ultimately fail. But that's interesting. Obviously, an Australian twist on it. A lot of Tottenham fans don't know who he is, so they don't appreciate or respect him. I think he actually would be very good for Tottenham, but it's another discussion. But Larry. First negative, we'll get into maybe the performances. The negative, Antony, in regards to an injury. It didn't look sort of too bad to me, but obviously he's been stretched off, and obviously the commentator referred to he did go to hospital. So
he didn't go to hospital.
Oh, he didn't go to hospital, did he? Didn't he? So okay, that's good. But fingers crossed, it is a quick recovery. But ultimately, he has been stretched off and did look in a fair bit of pain. If you're a betting man, you say he's not going to be available for Wembley in a week's time. So
can I be honest with you? I was so happy we got to see Sancho on the right because I thought he looks a lot better.
I thought Sancho, look, I view Sancho's performance as very different to a lot of people. And yes, the final third and the execution obviously sticks out in your mind, and that's where a player needs to make the difference, and that's what they're paid, especially Sancho's money, to do. I always think his performances are quite so. That's why Erik ten Hag does persist with him. But look, I've always been not a fan of Jadon Sancho on the left, but I think his better football comes from the left. But I understand the arguments always for playing him on the right, especially if you want to accommodate another player like Marcus Rashford or Anthony Martial. And we did see that start of the season in terms of the preseason, Martial, Sancho and Rashford. So just your thinking on the right-hand side, a week out from the cup final with Antony's injury, both defensively and attacking side of things.
Well, I think Sancho's a shoe-in to be on the right, if that's the case. And I have to be honest, I've wanted to see this front three all season. And we haven't been able to see it because Martial's been injured and because of form. And Sancho's had his own personal matters going on throughout the season. But I got to be honest, Tom, I think it's our strongest front three. And the reason I say that is, regardless of who you think about a player is between Antony and Sancho, when Sancho plays on the right because he's a right footer, I think he just carries a natural width because Rashford likes to chop in. So I think that the fact that if you're a defensive back four, you've got different challenges on either side of the pitch. And I think with Antony and Rashford, United can get quite narrow. Now, of course, Wan-Bissaka does offer the overlap on occasion. Luke Shaw or Malacia, not so much. They tend to occupy deeper positions on the pitch. But all in all, I think United have a more balanced football or play more balanced football when Sancho's on the right. And you saw today, his assist for Martial, he created a few opportunities for other players. I think Sancho on the right-hand side might just be the blessing in disguise that Erik ten Hag needed.
For the cup final, though, and this is not a preview, but in regards to a defensive side of things, which Antony will give you against Manchester City, does Jadon Sancho fill you with confidence at the moment, both sides of the game at Wembley?
Look, I think we'll do a preview on the Manchester City game at the pub, but I don't think Sancho will start against Manchester City. And I dare say if Antony was fit, I don't think Antony would start against Manchester City.
Bruno Fernandes on the right-hand side. We'll touch on the preview in a little bit, but I hadn't thought that, but 2 seconds before you started that sentence, but now you brought it up, I think, I potentially do see that happening. And I think that did happen in the first game. But Antony was actually the substitute who came on. No, sorry, the return leg. And Antony was actually the one who came on and not changed the game, but obviously substitution at a key time. I think he came on at 1-0 down. But interesting, that is for the FA Cup final preview. But sort of going through the performances, before we get into 3-2-1s, Casemiro and the Champions League. He's the reason we are. Now, it's a team game. Erik ten Hag has been brilliant. Marcus Rashford has been scoring goals. Defensively, we've been a lot more solid with Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane. The reason we are in the Champions League, in my opinion, the difference maker, it'll be very interesting when we go to 3-2-1s at the end of the season in terms of tally up who did get our player of the season. Regardless of points, just my sort of feeling towards an impact on the team and an impact on this season. Casemiro, talk to me.
He belongs in the Champions League. He's a Champions League player. He's a winner. His best game today in a long time. He was brilliant today. I thought when every other player got sloppy, Casemiro held the standard. And he scored the opening goal, which is always the hardest goal to score.
He scores that type of goal quite a lot, or gets in that position.
It's interesting. Yeah, well, he's an intelligent footballer. I think that's the thing. I think a lot of us, look, I'm not going to say myself. I like to think I know my footballers, Tom. But generally speaking, I think a lot of people view defensive midfielders as, for lack of a better term, thugs or enforcers. Let's say enforcers. I think people look at your typical number 6 and say, oh, okay, yeah, they break up the play, but they're just physical players. Casemiro is an intelligent footballer. He knows where to get in, but he obviously gets in between defenders really well. He has them going one way and he gets in between them. Can I say, I think Fofana is a disgrace. Who lost? Who was it that lost Casemiro for the lead up to the goal? Because whoever was tracking him honestly just gave up.
They had a lot of space.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But at the end of the day, you can only play what's in front of you. And I think Casemiro, unbelievable player. And I'm happy to see him back in the Champions League. But I'm going to reinforce this point. There's going to be lots and lots of transfer talk as we go through the coming months. We need to get someone who can deputize for him. He needs to be rested and managed well so we can see that level of performance throughout the season.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, Rob. Here, 15 goals and assists with Casemiro. That's crazy, especially when you compare it to what Mudryk cost 100 million or something for an attacking player, and he sort of has 0. I don't know if he's got an assist. Maybe he has no goals in the Premier League. And I kind of agree with Emad here. Casemiro was a bit wild today, a couple of red cards, and he's got the taste for blood. I did see him sort of diving into challenges, but my thinking, and maybe it was because United were very comfortable and I wasn't in a shitty mood, I was so enjoying what I was seeing. My feeling towards Casemiro was just he was that far ahead of everyone on the pitch. He was just sort of having a bit of fun. Like the pitch was so slippery, everyone's slipping and sliding. I thought Casemiro sort of, here's a chance I can throw a bit of a slide tackle in and just went in for the fun of it. You know, when you're a kid and you see a puddle of mud or something, you go run and dive in it. I think Casemiro was just sort of doing that. He's just having a little bit of fun out there. And when you are the best player on the pitch and it's comfortable for you, you sort of can afford that. And just very interesting at the end of the season when we do look at 3-2-1s. Look, Marcus Rashford so often. Look, I'm not giving away the score. I haven't seen the leaderboard in a while. But in regards to impact on games and sort of how many winners he's got, I'm sure he has a lot of 3 points. But just my feeling towards a player of the season this year. But there's a very valid argument that he's missed too many games through suspension to be considered player of the season. He has missed a big chunk of the season. That's maybe where you look at Lisandro Martinez or Marcus Rashford. But just off the top of your head, most important player this season, who do you think?
It has to be Casemiro for me. I know he's missed games, but you can look at Rashford's goals. Obviously, his goal tally is impressive. But at the end of the day, you only win games by keeping goals out of the back of the net. And if you look at what United dished up last season, the 6th worst defense in the Premier League, it's unacceptable. And the biggest improvement in that has been, yes, Lisandro Martinez, yes, the defensive package as a whole. But Casemiro, he's the glue. He's the glue between the midfield and the defense. He protects. He progresses the ball. He's set a tempo to the way United play. And I don't think you can put a price on that. I'd ask you to put Rashford in this team for the rest of this season, remove Casemiro out of the team, replace him with Fred. I hate to think where United finished this season. He's been the epitome. All of our success this season, today's victory, it's appropriate that he scored the opening goal, Tom, because Casemiro, he is the glue that keeps United going. I think you can see we're a better side with Martinez in there, and I think Martinez is probably a short second behind that. But I think if you remove Casemiro from this team, there is nothing that gets close to his level of performance.
Well, we can have that debate in the summer, which is only 2 games away, is less than sort of 10 days away. We can have a look at all that. But at the moment, we have Casemiro and we can enjoy it. But before we get into 3-2-1s, there is a few in the chat, which is obviously great to see. And it is very early on a Friday morning before we do head off for work. So if you do respect this and appreciate this commitment from Larry and I and everyone in the live chat, I always appreciate joining us. We are very close or on our way to 2,000 subscribers, which would be a great achievement for everyone to sort of be involved with. So if you aren't subscribed and you're in the chat, please hit that subscribe button. Plenty of content, as Larry said, a lot more from the pub as well, going back to our origins in regards to the pubcast. So hit that subscribe button and like button. We very much appreciate it. But Larry, what we're all here for in regards to we're not scraping any bottoms of the barrel this week. 3-2-1s. Casemiro, 3.
Oh, no brainer. I thought he was really good today. Like I said, best player on the pitch, comfortably. 3 points for Casemiro back in the Champions League. Tom, if you don't drive are you driving to work today? You getting on the train?
Train.
Are you going to have your headphones in? Are you going to play the Champions League anthem this morning?
I actually listened. I'm halfway through Eric Steele's podcast for Man United. Obviously, many people probably won't know who Eric Steele is. Obviously, the former goalkeeper. Go listen to it. Actually, quite an interesting listen, especially in terms of the way bringing David De Gea to the club. But at the moment, yeah, headphones in. I'm a podcast man. Obviously, United podcast, etc. But yeah, Casemiro, 3. And yeah, Champions League. We brought Champions League Varane in. Now it's Champions League Casemiro. And ultimately, they are where they do deserve to be. But interesting one here, Chris. So looks like a Chelsea fan. Big photo Roman there. Good to see. Always welcome here. What's happening, lads? Absolute shambles from my club this season. That performance was an absolute embarrassment. Frank Lampard, get out of my club, fella.
It's not fair to put on Lampard, I don't think.
I feel, look, obviously very welcome here, Chris. Good to see. Even as a Chelsea fan, I'll take no sort of, I won't hide from my joy in seeing what is happening at Stamford Bridge. But that's where I feel. That's why I was so sad with the way it was ending on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like fans or supposed fans turning on a club legend. Like Frank Lampard is arguably Chelsea's biggest ever legend. What he's had to deal with now, okay, he's not good enough, but he's sort of been blamed for it. I think the blame has to be above him. And you don't want, well, I don't care what happens at Chelsea fans, but you don't really want to see Chelsea fans turn on their greatest ever legend. It's not really fair. That really shouldn't happen, but long may it continue. But Stephen, all our defenders have lifted under Eric Ten Hag, except the captain. Yeah, that's an interesting debate at the end of the season. Everyone has sort of risen to the challenge, and Maguire sort of has definitely regressed. Jay, Casemiro, Victor for 2 points in interesting. We'll probably wouldn't disagree.
Victor was good. That's a good shout.
Had a good game. Jadon Sancho for 1. The name for me, though, I would be putting in there. And again, maybe this is a seasonal thing rather than just this isolated 90 minutes. So Aaron Wan-Bissaka had another very good game.
Yeah, he did. He occupies midfield at times. Have you noticed that?
He does. But that's what the whole package with Wan-Bissaka. I look at that's not his game yet. You think of his attributes since the day he arrived at Old Trafford. The last place you want to put Aaron Wan-Bissaka is playing football in midfield. Don't play there. Traditional right back, defend, make your tackles. But obviously, Eric Ten Hag demands so much from his fullbacks, and obviously that modern type of going into midfield. And you think, no, that's not going to suit Wan-Bissaka. That's why he wasn't even included in matchday squads for half the season, because he just can't play that. Suddenly he's coming in. and now he's improved it and just sort of worked on his game. And that is, look, you can have a debate who's good enough, who's not good enough. Is there Wan-Bissaka might not be good enough long term, but oh my God, he's tried to improve,
I
and
think
he has.
it's clear his first choice. He gets chosen. He's clearly chosen every single game now, and Delo just sits on the bench.
Yeah, no,
Like
look.
a story when you think he didn't kick a ball for a good 4 months.
I think if we win the FA Cup, like if we're to win the FA Cup in a week's time, we're sort of looking. You could almost predict now we're going to have it, and I've got full faith in him. But you're going to have Aaron Wan-Bissaka have the game of his life, and he seems to do that against Manchester City.
Yeah, well, Grealish is in good form, and whoever plays on that's the thing. City just rotate, and whoever they put in there, hell of a player. Foden, Grealish, doesn't matter.
It'll be Grealish.
It will be Grealish, man with the biggest calves in world football. But no, I'm with you. I think Wan-Bissaka is going to have his hands full, but you expect Wan-Bissaka to deal with a player like Grealish, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, look, it'll be a good battle. What was that battle the other day? Wan-Bissaka and there's someone that's really good battle. Was it Champions League game? Matoma, that was it, the Brighton match. Was at Wembley, wasn't it? It was a cracking tie. In the Wan-Bissaka discussion as well, and maybe in points. Obviously, one or two people have brought his name up in regards to points. So I'll throw it to you in regards to Wan-Bissaka or this man. But he goes into the same discussion in regards to looking like his United career was over. Emad brings up here, can we give a big shout to my man Lindelof, who's been amazing since coming in for Lisandro Martinez. Victor Lindelof's impact on this team in regards to all our fears when Varane and Martinez went down. The season's over, all done. It's going to be Lindelof and Maguire sort of thing. But Lindelof has come in over Harry Maguire, and you look now, I'd say he's saved his United career, and not through he should have been sold regardless. I think he should have been staying over Harry Maguire in regards to how this season has panned out, but just in regards to probably his feeling as an individual in terms of being on the bench, in terms of not playing, I think he might have been looking at an exit. So between Erik ten Hag and Victor Lindelof, like the Aaron Wan-Bissaka discussion, you can only be full of praise because no complaints, no leaking of the press. I'm unhappy with this or unhappy with that. He came in when was called upon and delivered in a must-need situation.
Was it during the international break? I think Lisha wasn't injured yet, and he did make a comment where he said, obviously, I'd like to be playing more, and we'll review the situation. But look, I think he's, like you said, I think he saved his United career. I think he cemented himself as a very clear and obvious third choice. And I actually think he's been better, not better, but he stood out better. He stood out more than Varane. In recent weeks.
He does. I think we see him more. It's almost like Lisandro Martinez, almost like Vidic and Ferdinand. You see the more aggressive one. And I think Lindelof has taken a little bit more of an aggressive role under Varane.
I think Lindelof is a more well-rounded defender. I think Varane is a brilliant defender, like in terms of one-on-one defending. I think Varane's really good. I think Lindelof maybe isn't as physical, isn't as good in one-on-one situations, but substantially better with the ball. So he's got that long ping in him, which we saw glimpses of today. Was it for Martial, who unfortunately couldn't control it? But Lindelof's done that time and time again in recent years. And he's obviously, it's something he's got in his locker. And very Rio Ferdinand-esque. That's something Rio used to do really well. And I've got time for a ball-playing defender, Tom. You know that. I really do appreciate the art because you're the furthest player on the pitch other than the goalkeeper. So when you've got the ability to ping a ball like that, and hit it on the mark, like that's not an easy skill to do. And I think in our heads, we all perceive defenders to be donkeys. I think that's fair to say. I know football's obviously evolved and the expectation has changed, but more or less, most people see a defender, you see a donkey. You look at Tyrone Mings, you think he's a donkey, right? So when you see a player who can have that kind of ability on the ball, you have to appreciate it. And I think Lindelof is so solid. Like that's what you want out of a squad player, and that's where United. That's the evolution of this team. It's when a first team player comes out, that squad player who comes in does the job.
At the start of the season, when Erik ten Hag came in, we all had these discussions in regards to which players would suit him, which players wouldn't suit him. I think a lot of us sort of said Victor Lindelof may be one, and this obviously before Lisandro Martinez did arrive, Lindelof might be one to improve under Erik ten Hag. We sort of never really saw that, so sort of that discussion was forgotten about. But since he has got his chance under Erik ten Hag, maybe we are seeing that he is that type of player. But in regards to, there's another shout here in regards to the 3-2-1s, which we still are on. Casemiro for 3, Sancho for 2, and Bruno for 1. I thought Bruno was actually quite poor, but ultimately, maybe not his performance. Maybe his performance was probably better. But again, I'll go back to the final third in regards to execution, just one or two moments that stood out. You think, oh, you've got to do better there. But maybe in terms of getting into that position, he was quite good. Obviously got the penalty, won it himself and converted. Look, I'm a big fan of Bruno. I'd probably be steering away from points, and not in a negative way, but I probably wouldn't be giving him points. But I'll throw the floor to you for 2 points. Obviously, Casemiro for 3. But I think this is a good thing. I would be going Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but who are our goal scorers? You are looking at Rashford, Martial, Bruno. Then,
I'd probably. I think it was the defenders that stood out today. I'd be going Casemiro, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka. I'd be going that way. I thought Rashford looked good when he came on. Not sharp, but I think you can expect that with a few weeks out. Still scored a goal, a comical goal, I must say. Shambles. Kepa, he's a shambles.
Jordan Pickford or Dean Henderson lines up at Stamford Bridge next season?
Oh, I could see Henderson going to Chelsea. He's got that wanker.
Would United do that? Because actually, it goes into this discussion. So we'll go those 3-2-1s. We'll go Casemiro, Wan-Bissaka, and Victor Lindelof. What do you say, Lindelof for 2 or Wan-Bissaka?
Look, I'd go Lindelof for 2, but whichever way you float, mate.
Okay, well, we'll go Lindelof for 2, Aaron Wan-Bissaka for 1, Boxy going, Casemiro 1, Lindelof 2, Varane 3. Varane was good. But in regards to the discussion here, who brings it up? Inbox brings it up. Where are we? Here. The players have done well, but we still need to be ruthless in outgoing. Some of these players have been hit. Some of these same players have been here for years. In regards to here, we are full of praise for all these players, and I think rightly so. They deserve it after a performance, and ultimately, you'd say a successful season. In regards to, do you think maybe as a fan base, we are, I wouldn't say overhyping the players, but kind of really forgetting the task at hand for the club in regards to, okay, this is good. We'll finish third. Manchester City at whatever, how many points ahead of us. That's where we need to be. And ultimately, we do need to sort of, Eric Ten Hag and the new owners need to sort of put that emotion to the side and sort of retain that ruthlessness.
Yeah, I think so. The balance has to be right, though. We've seen with Chelsea this season, if you bring in 5, 6, 7 players in one go, you can really upset the team harmony. So I think United need to get that balance right. And I think Ten Hag is conscious of that. Look, I think this isn't FIFA. You can't, as much as we would like to just remove the 11 players. I remember last season, we were like, hey, let's get rid of all 11 players. Throw them all out. I'll get the minibus and I'll put them all on the bus to the airport. But the reality is, when you're going through an evolution, you simply cannot evolve the squad like that. I find it quite disruptive. And I can't think of a team in recent memory who's had a large turnover of players and hummed all the way along. I think of the Galacticos in the early 2000s with Real Madrid. I even think of United and Louis van Gaal's first season. I mean, I know we finished top 4, but it was hairy at times. Look at Chelsea this season. I've never seen it, Tom. It doesn't happen. I think the healthy number is 4. I think if you can bring 4 players in, 4 players out, I think that's the healthy number, 4 to 5.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to throw PSG in regards to that discussion, just in regards to what their ultimate PSG goal in regards to the Champions League. Now, obviously, they dominate the French league, but in regards to what the players have been brought in for is obviously Champions League, which hasn't happened. Mum, good to see you. Good morning. And Ashley, hey guys, we need a huge summer transfer window. We need the right players. I think that
Antony player, Ashley Williams.
That's the main thing. They're the right players, which Eric Ten Hag has alluded to, which is interesting. I think every sort of quote Eric Ten Hag comes out with now, people are tying ownership discussions into it. Okay, this means he wants Qatar. This means he wants Sir Jim. And the biggest one at the moment in regards to people saying, oh, this means Qatar. Okay, we're going to have a lot of money, but it needs to be the right place. So you are looking at Chelsea and how much money they are spending. What Eric Ten Hag is right. Okay, go spend 600 million. You're going to finish in the bottom half of the Premier League if that money is spent incorrectly. That does need to be right. And I think it's a sort of real it's a balancing act in regards to that. There is a fine balance. We are going to have to spend big money just to get, even if we're to buy average players. Let's say we want to buy, look what prices some of our players we want. Let's say Dean Henderson, he's going to go for 25, 30 million, or that's the price tag. Scott McTominay, if he's to go to Newcastle, that's going to be around 30 million. So if we want that next bracket of player, that's going to cost 60, 70 million. And I'm just thinking there is going to be so much money spent just for a lot of people talking about Mason Mount at the moment. Obviously, Chelsea want 70, 80 million. Obviously, the bandy price tag from United is around 50. In my mind, if we're to bring Mason Mount in, that's a 20 million, 30 million pound signing, but ultimately that's just not the case in modern football. Your bench player now at the highest level is going to cost you 60, 70 million pound at a club like Manchester United, unless you can implement a scouting network like Brighton and bring in the player for 5 million. But at Manchester United, we can talk a big game and say that should be done. Ultimately, the size of Manchester United, that is very hard to do, because if you bring in a 5 million pound signing like Brighton do and they don't work, and Mason Mount goes to Liverpool for 40 million, and Mason Mount starts scoring goals, you think, and our play just doesn't eventuate, he doesn't turn up, it doesn't turn into the play you hope. You think, why didn't you go and spend the money? So that is why a lot of people say, oh, we need to scout better. Yes, of course you do. But Manchester United and big clubs, just in regards to getting results, you do need to spend big money on big players, unfortunately.
I don't think we're in a position for the gamble yet. And I think Sir Alex had the benefit of being able to do that because he was winning all the time. But in United's current evolution, I think, look, Tyrell Malacia, I think you can put into that category. How much was he? 12 million, 15 million pounds? Yeah. He wasn't an expensive player. So I think there is room to do it. But I don't think United are in a position like we need a striker. You're not buying Chicharito from Mexico. I think United need the closest thing to a guarantee. And that's because United are now... Sorry to tell you, fellas, it's been a decade since we won the Premier League. And United can no longer afford to allow that length of time to keep getting away from us. United need to win their next Premier League title and unfortunately don't have the benefit of taking a gamble. I think for the upcoming transfer window, now once we do win that inaugural title under Ten Hag, I think then United can go for those gems, do what Brighton do. You need to get the balance right. But look, United are still bringing through young players, and I think we've seen that. I mean, obviously, Rashford in recent years, Brendan Williams, Axel, I know it hasn't worked out, Mason Greenwood, and obviously more recently, Alejandro Garnacho. So United are promoting young players in, and I suppose that can be your gamble because Brighton don't bring in young players. Brighton have to buy those players. So where's your balance? You know what I mean? So I'm with you. I think United need to spend big at the moment. At the end of the day, back this manager. He knows what he's doing. If he wants Mason Mount or he wants Tom Simpson, I'll back whatever Erik Ten Hag thinks.
Well, I hope he's got better thinking than bringing me in, but I would accept the call, Eric, if you are listening. But, Larry, before we do wrap up, obviously you do need to go get your morning coffee before you head off to work. Any other talking points in and around the game? We did smash Chelsea 4-1. I don't think we're sort of maybe appreciating that as much as we should.
Here's a thought. Here's a thought for everyone in the comments, and here's a thought for you, Tom. Obviously, the ownership around United has been umming and ahhing for a little bit. I almost wonder, was the final price being decided on United securing the Champions League? Did that have anything to do with it?
Look, potentially, and maybe potentially in regards to an announcement, in regards to, I don't know how this sort of impacts the stock exchange and the price of the shares. I'm not sure, but yeah, that is definitely a thing.
I wonder, do we reach a conclusion now because we've secured Champions League football?
I think for an owner, let's say you are Qatar or you're Sir Jim, what's the difference in price money for Champions League a season? 50 million?
30 million. Shoe change. Wipe my bum with that.
So I think, and look, I'm sure it does sort of play a massive impact on the negotiations, I'm sure. But really, they want the club or they want to get a deal done. It shouldn't really matter.
Big question.
You either want Manchester United or not.
Big question here. If you're as rich as Sir Jim Ratcliffe or you're as rich as Sheikh Jassim, if you run out of toilet paper and you've got your wallet with you in your pants, do you, 1, get a new toilet roll, or 2, do you pull out a $50 bill and just do the business?
Well, I was, as I said, when we started this last sentence, I was sort of leaning towards looking at and sort of smashing Chelsea 4-1 and sort of really appreciating that. That was a very beautiful thing on a Friday morning, and your brain has gone somewhere else. So I would like to bring it back on track and get my mind out of
answer my question, toilet. Mate. I haven't had coffee.
I still have no idea what you mean.
There are 28 people here. The 28 people want to know if you're Sheikh Jassim or you're Sir Jim Ratcliffe, bill or paper.
Well, I'm hoping they're smart enough to not put themselves in that position. If they're buying Manchester United, they better be well prepared, other than go to the toilet and be shortchanged.
Well, if they go to the toilet and they're out of toilet paper, then I'd say they've got lots of change.
I should do, but answer that in the comments if you are still with us after that. But we do appreciate everyone in the live chat. Chris, you with a shout? We haven't forgot this, or I have forgot, but brings it back. Amad Diallo
could be like a new signing.
Definitely, and if we were, he did cost 40 million, which is crazy. I'm not sure how much of that we have paid, but you'd say a new signing. If we were to buy him from Sunderland, we would be buying him for 40 million. So fingers crossed he can have a good pre-season and acts like a new signing next season at Old Trafford. But at Old Trafford next season will be Champions League football. Will be Erik Ten Hag, will be Casemiro, Varane, and all the rest of the lads who do deserve a lot of praise. We do criticise them, or we have criticised them rightly so. recently and in previous season, but at the start of the season, we asked them to win a trophy and get Champions League football. They've done that, and that's all we can ask for, Larry. So got to enjoy the rest of my day, enjoy the weekend before United get on to Fulham, and we'll obviously preview that maybe tomorrow. 11 changes. Throw Jack Butland in. I think we see the return of McFred. I think Harry Maguire gets his send-off. I think Diego Dalot needs minutes before the final. I'll be playing Veghorst because I think Martial has to start the final, so I'll be playing Veghorst there.
No preview, ladies and gentlemen. Tom's done it in about 30 seconds.
Maybe you give Garnacho a start and throw one or two youth players. I think reward one or two youth players. I think that's the perfect opportunity on the final day of the season.
Kobe Maynard hasn't played for a little bit.
I think you get Kobe Maynard back on the bench. And, look, hopefully it is a feel-good factor at all. Well, it will be. But one or two send-offs, I say in regards to saying goodbye to Old Trafford, not in regards to red cards. But that is
he's going to do 10 laps of Old Trafford.
Of course, that is a podcast when he does leave. Phil Jones, I'm sure he'll be out there. Give him a proper send-off, not in regards to on the pitch, but hopefully he's there to get a bit of an ovation after the game when they do their lap of honour. But until then, hopefully everyone does enjoy their weekend. Please do leave a like.
I need my coffee
on the video
enjoy
on
the
your way
Champions
out.
League anthem. This is the closest thing I have to a trophy. So, Viva the Champions League.
Bottle.
Look, it even has a gold handle because Champions League, and that's my cue to leave. Have a good day,
the handles
everybody.
on the Champions League trophy are silver, but I do take your point. But until then, enjoy your weekend, and we'll chat to you soon. Cheers.
Cheers.